dancers, welcome back to my channel. I'm Claudia Dean and thank you so much for tuning in today, because today we have a brand new type of video. A lot of you have asked me to do this type of video before, so it's finally here. And what I'm going to be bringing you today is basically how to achieve perfect audition photos. So I'm going to be going through what you should wear, hair and makeup wise, leotard wise, and of course, the most important thing of all, what tips you need to know to achieve amazing audition photos. And as you can see, I'm actually at a photographic studio today, which is so cool. It's where we shoot all of our Collections by Claudia collection photo shoots, and because we've just shot a whole new collection, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to do this video now. So let's get straight into it, because I've got a lot of information to give you. Now, my first tip is making sure what leotard you're wearing is perfect for your body type. I obviously have my own brand, Collections by Claudia, and I adore all the leotards that I create. And this one in particular, it's from our signature collection. It's called Aurora, and I love it because number one, it has high cut leg lines. They're not too high cut, but it's just the perfect amount. And that's exactly what you want for an audition photo shoot, because you want all of your leg lines to look nice and long. So I'd highly recommend getting a high cut leotard. The next thing that's really important is also the color. So you want to make sure you haven't got something that's too bright or too fluorescent or too light, especially if you've got a white backdrop. You want to make sure it's a color that's bold, but then also not black, because I feel black's very typical. So I'm wearing at the moment my Arctic Night, which is basically navy, which I think is a perfect color. Or also, if you go onto claudiadeanworld.com, I've also got an icicle color from our signature range, which I love because it's like a royal blue, and it's not dull and it's not light, it's just the perfect color. So that's another good option. And the next thing to consider as well is just making sure that the cut is perfect for you. So you want something that opens up your shoulder line, and you also want something that's got like a nice low V back, exactly like this. And then again, the high cut leg lines. So the more simplistic really, the better. So nothing with sleeves or nothing that's trying to hide anything, no skirts. You want to make sure you're showing your body for really what you are. Embrace yourself. The next tip to remember is makeup and hair. So your makeup should just exaggerate your features. I actually had a photo shoot for my brand today, so I've got like a lot of makeup on. So you probably wouldn't want to wear this much. But another thing to remember too is something like a French roll, and I've got so many tutorials on how to master this French roll. Something like this would be amazing because it just looks elegant from the side. So whenever you do any position, it's always got like that long line, which is what you want. Now, the next thing you've got to remember, so this is my tip number 3, is pick roughly about 5 positions. Most times when you want to join a company or a school, they usually want to see about 5 photos, and I would really highly recommend making sure that each of those photos, they show off something different. So I would recommend a still photo, so something with your leg a terre, and I'll make sure I go through exactly what ones you should do. Then I'd recommend an arabesque. It's really important that you show your arabesque. Then I'd also recommend something showing your extensions either to the devon or to second, but I'm going to pick second today. Then I'd recommend a C-sewn, because you definitely want to show a jump for sure. And last but not least, I would highly recommend showing a grand jeté, because hey, they've got to see a grand jeté. I think that's really important. Now, before we get stuck into the poses and all the tips that I'm going to give you to achieve these poses, the last tip I have for you is to make sure you have a good photographer. So today I have my amazing photographer and videographer Leanne from Dance Exposure filming and photographing me today, and Leanne has a background in dance, so it's very easy for her to just snap the position straight away, which I think is critical. So if you're getting audition photos, you want to make sure that that person knows dance or is an expert photographer. So pose number 1, this is my a terre position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend my right leg behind, because I feel my right leg has a little bit more rotation, so it's going to be much easier for me to achieve that type of fish line. Then I'm going to make sure that this knee is going over the top of my 3rd toe of my supporting leg to make sure that I'm not showing I'm rolling. Also, this position's really good too because it shows off your demi-plie at the same time. So demi-plie, fondue, knee over 3rd toe, turning out the back leg as much as possible with the long elongated line. Then I'm going to put my arms into a 4th position this way, Why I like this position, it's because they can see your face on FAST, because that's really important too. Then it's really important in this fourth position to make sure that this elbow isn't covering your face. You want everything to be as open as possible. So you're going to try and imagine that someone's pulling back your left elbow. Then you want to make sure your side arm here, your right elbow is going up towards the ceiling. Then last but not least, your ribbies, so your ribs, they've got to go in and down, because at the same time when you're trying to achieve all these different things, you want to look calm. So 1, 2, 3. Now the next pose we're going to look at is arabesque. So it's really important with the arabesque. I would highly recommend stay completely décolleté, because that's going to allow your supporting foot to look much more flat from where the camera is. The next thing I would recommend too is start with your side arm more forward and then bring the arms down, especially the front one, down to about 90 degrees. Reason being is when your leg flies up, naturally your arms lift. So you want to make sure you're starting much lower. As soon as the leg lifts up, you want to make sure that your 2 hip bones go over the top of your right big toe, which is your supporting leg. Or if you're facing this way, it'll be your left big toe. What you don't want is you don't want to show that you're pulling off your supporting leg. You want to make sure that you appear really on your leg. The other thing that's important too, start in a 5th position on point. So you start here. Then when you release the leg here, do almost like a grand battement, because if you've got a good photographer, they'll be able to capture you right at the peak of the grand battement. So you don't want to try holding the arabesque, because you'll find the leg just won't be as high as it probably can go. And then on the other scale, you want to make sure that you're not doing like a kick, like a smack kick, because that can look a little bit out of control and you don't want things to look distorted. So do a grand battement and you should be absolutely fine. Now, lucky last thing, before we take the photo, we're going to put our chin parallel to this arm. So it's going to be like this. Okay, I think we're ready. 1, 2, 3. So now I've got that photo up on the screen, I wanted to point something out to you all. So I really like this arabesque photo, but you can see because I went into that arabesque and I wasn't pulling down my arms, that arm that's closest to you, it's looking quite distorted and high at the moment. So that would be the only thing that I would fix with that type of photo. So I just thought I'd point that out to you all. So the next position we're going to do is a développé second with our arms in 4th position. And in this position, there's a few little tips that you've got to remember. Obviously, when you're lifting up your leg, the first natural reaction is we pull off our supporting leg. So you want to make sure that you're keeping the arch and the instep fully over the top of that supporting leg. And in my case, it's my left one. But if your good leg up is left, then it would be your right one. But I'm going to go to the other side. So left leg's down, you're going to make sure the instep's really going over. Then when you lift up into this position, you want to make sure you're going knee, then foot. So you can actually reach a higher développé. Then the lucky last thing is the arms. So a lot of people end up doing this with the wrists because they're focusing on getting the legs up and making sure the body's in the correct position. But you want to make sure that your wrists are extended so everything's pulling up all at the same time. And I would recommend too, the head should be profile when you do this as well. So let's try and take the photo. 1, 2, 3. Now again, on the screen, you can see what I said about the wrist. So because I was focusing so much on my supporting leg and my working leg, the wrist ends up doing that in. So you got to make sure again it's extended, and then also I have an issue with my pointer fingers. My pointer fingers go up. So again, no pointer fingers. So it looks nice and calm. Now the next pose we're going to do is our C-sewn. So for a C-sewn, I would recommend for your prep, start croisé and make your plie down into it. So this really fast. So you pretty much end up going 1, 2, like that. Because the slower you rest here and the slower you go up, the more delayed the jump's gonna be. So you wanna go really fast. The other thing that's really important too, your right leg, when you go up into this position, you're trying to think of this leg literally going above 90 degrees. Because if you think of it going just to about 45, most likely your jump's gonna be quite low and it's gonna be at 45 degrees. Whereas if you go front leg up above 90, your hips are gonna lift up above 90 as well. Everything's gonna look more lifted. Now the lucky last thing with the arms, it's exactly what I said with the first arabesque, like this. I would recommend taking your arms much lower because when you jump, they're naturally gonna go flying up. So just keep them much lower and it will look a lot more controlled. Okay, I think let's try this one. 1, 2, 3. Again, I seem to have a big issue with my side arm. So you can see the arm that's closest to you when I've jumped, it's gone all the way up. So that's another moment where I most likely need to pull down my lats to keep everything in place. Okay, let's move on to the next pose. So the lucky last position is, I think, the hardest one of all. It's a grand jeté. A grand jeté is very hard to achieve, and having every single element perfect for a photo is like very close to impossible. So you've really got to make sure that when you're doing it, you're just thinking of as many little teeny tiny corrections at once. And what I'd focus on are these. First of all, take your arms to 5th position. Okay, I feel 5th always lifts everyone up more in a grand jeté, so do 5th position. Make sure again the wrists don't drop, so lift them up. The next thing that you've got to focus on is the line of the back leg. So you want to make sure again, it's sort of like the C-stone and like the arabesque, making sure that your knee goes out and then your foot continues and goes slightly up, because that will actually make your leg line look higher as well. Whereas if you do downward slight sickle line, it's going to look lower than what it is. So you want to try and make sure you're fishing it slightly more. And the next thing you want to make sure you do is lift up this knee higher as you développé out for the grand jeté. So you go galop and there, knee, foot. So this leg can get up way above 90 degrees and then extend out. For a photo as well, it's really important too that both legs get out together. So you can't have one leg going up and then the other leg following after. You want to make sure that, as I said, your front knee goes boom, boom, but at the same time, your back leg is almost grand battemoning up. So they end up being in the air together, so your photographer can capture everything all at once. I think let's just give this a go. Let's go for it. Okay, I'm gonna rev up. So, make sure as well you tell your photographer what your preparation is going to be. So my photographer knows that I'm about to do galop and a step, boom! Literally boom. 5, 6, 7, and. I'm actually in shock at that photo. Like, I can't believe it. Is that really me? I'm kidding, but I'm actually quite proud of that. Like, are you serious? I haven't danced for 5 years. So now we've done all the dancing shots. Obviously, as you will know, you have to also hand in a headshot. That's really important. Obviously, maybe take your headshot first before you get sweaty, but I would really recommend with a headshot is slightly turning up towards the corner, turning around, and then tilting your head back like you're on a pillow. So it's like this, and then I would do a nice, soft, inviting smile. So you don't want something to be forced and you don't want to look serious. You want to make sure it looks inviting. So that's the type of headshot that I would go for. Well, I hope you've all learnt so much more about audition photos. Me and my photographer, Leanne, we're actually thinking we might even do a video all about how to take good ballet photos in terms of angles and what you should be thinking of when you're actually taking the photo. I know a lot of you like content for your Instagram and making sure that your mums and yourselves are taking the photos correctly. So we thought we'd do a video on that, but comment below if you want to see that too. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe. Love you all lots, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.